Perhaps one of the greatest aerobatic pilots in the world today was lost yesterday, the 24th of April, when Rob Holland lost his life on a routine ferry flight landing at Langley Air Force Base, Virginia. Very little information at this point. Here's what we know so far. This looks like a routine flight where Rob was flying the aircraft from Smyrna, Tennessee to Langley Air Force Base to get ready for the air show, the Air Power over Hampton Roads Air Show this weekend at Langley. The flight was just under 3 hours at a cruise altitude of about 9,500 feet, with the accident occurring on final approach to Langley. The data on FlightAware here ends at 600 feet above the ground and 170 miles an hour ground speed on a straight-in final for the runway at Langley. A Google Earth image of ADS-B data shown here on the AOPA website shows the aircraft flying over the runway and veering just to the left of the runway before the data ended. I don't know if this indicates the beginning of an overhead approach and brake to land, or was Rob just simply flying a straight-in approach and landing to the runway at Langley. Colonel Altman from Langley Air Force Base confirmed that Rob was simply arriving to the air show for the first time to participate in the air show later on this weekend when the accident occurred. And because this accident occurred on the Air Force Base, there's virtually no other information about this accident at this time. Being one of the greatest aerobatic pilots the world has ever seen, Rob has acquired a ton of awards and wins in his aerobatic competition over his career, over 15,000 hours of flying time. In addition to all his competition wins, Rob has developed a stunning array of tumbling gyroscopic maneuvers that I've never seen before until Rob created these maneuvers like the Frisbee and the Nivek Kevin for backwards, a forward endo and a rolling spin, which put extreme demands on the airframe and the pilot himself. Now, the aircraft that Rob's been flying most lately is the MXS. He started out in a Pitts S2C and worked his way up to the MX series of aircraft. Let's check those out. The MX series of aircraft is a carbon fiber design aircraft that came from the Giles aircraft design initially and is being built to this day in Western Australia. Today, MX aircraft offers two different types, the MXS, or single-seat version of the MX, and the MX2, a two-seat version of the aircraft. Rob owns and flies currently the MX, or single-seat version. Using the latest in carbon fiber technology, the empty weight of this aircraft is only 1,260 pounds, and the loading capability, the G loading capability of the aircraft is plus and minus 14 Gs. The cockpit is designed to make it as ergonomically comfortable as possible for this extremely punishing high G environment, allowing a slightly reclined position of the pilot, keeping your feet and knees up relatively high, and a rather tall stick with a lot of leverage. Full span ailerons gives you an incredible roll rate of over 420 degrees per second. And Rob flew his airplanes hard to put on these stunning aerobatic displays, upwards of 10 positive Gs and I don't know how many negative Gs. And I bring all this up because one of the first speculations that's coming across the internet here in social media is, did the aircraft come apart in the air? And it should be very easy to find that out very quickly if we could just get some preliminary information, but we don't have that information at this time. And I find it hard to believe that an aircraft this robust would come apart on a approach to landing, even an overhead approach to landing, where you might do a brake of upwards of 3 Gs for your overhead brake. Here's the total number of accidents involving the MXS version, the single-seat version of the MX aircraft, and most of these, with no fatalities, are pilots smacking the water when they were doing the Red Bull air races around the pylons or practicing to do those sort of routines, and they were able to either fly away from that or recover from it. But there was one other fatal accident here in Borrego Springs back in 2012. And in this version of the MXS, this was a kit-built experimental aircraft where it was not a factory-built aircraft, but kit-built, and they found that the builder improperly built the torque tube attach fitting in the fuselage, and it subsequently came apart during an aerobatic competition, and the pilot lost control of the aircraft. And here's a detail on that improperly installed torque tube, the torque tube where the ailerons mount onto the tube to roll the ailerons. The pilot in this accident was able to successfully bail out of the airplane, but he was too low to get an effective parachute opening before impacting the ground. And this was not during a competition, it was during a practice flight for an aerobatic competition. The MX2 series of aircraft, the two-seater version, has 3 different accidents attributed to it here in the Aviation Safety Network. The first one here is a loss of control stall spin accident. The 2022 one here in Florida was a inverted flat spin where they determined that the weight of the aircraft and center of gravity of the aircraft was such that the pilot could not or did not recover from the inverted flat spin. But it's this one here in 2015 that has people wondering about structural failure of the aircraft. In this accident, pilot Nigel Hopkins was able to successfully bail out of his crippled aircraft once the engine mount failed and subsequently the right wing failed. And here in the picture you can see the engine's missing and the failure of the right wing. But this structural failure started with a failure of the engine mount and engine mount attach points at the firewall. As a result of this accident, changes were made to the design of the firewall where the engine mount attaches to the firewall. So with an airframe with a capability of plus or minus 14 Gs, that allows the pilots to just push these aircraft to the limits of human endurance. And here's some of those maneuvers that Rob's invented over the years. The Frisbee. A gyroscopic tumbling type maneuver. There you go. Just, I don't know what you call it. You just skid that aircraft around a full 360 degrees. Just like throwing a Frisbee. Here's one where he calls the forward endo, just right end over end forward tumbling maneuver. Just incredible new aerobatic maneuvers that are only possible with this sort of material science that's found in this aircraft. And incredible pilot skills. Kind of more like the kind of maneuver you would see on a radio control model aircraft. And you can see the huge control throws that make this sort of maneuvering possible. Here's something Rob calls the inside tumble maneuver. Again, incredible gyroscopic forces to tumble the aircraft like that. Just end over end over end. Just an incredible display if you've ever been able to watch these performances. And here's a little bit of what it looks like from inside the aircraft with an Insta360 camera from Rob Holland Aero Sports. Now this is from inside the cockpit with the Insta360 camera. It has a hard time keeping up, or I have a hard time keeping up with, but he's literally cartwheeling the aircraft on the vertical line there. Now you notice the engine RPM remains pretty constant. It's a constant speed prop, the IO540 engine, working very hard during these maneuvers. That's a hard negative G push, and right there, this gauge is a gauge you use to help reference the horizon to determine your lines, whether they're vertical or 45 degrees, to get that perfect line for the judges. Now, aerobatic performances is a lot different than aerobatic competition. There, he's got that forward endo going, just tumbling the aircraft. End over end. Now this might be that Frisbee maneuver looking from the inside. Just spinning that aircraft. And note too where he's often using two hands on the stick. constant speed prop, just set the power and really push it to the limits. Now here's Rob in his own words describing why he likes the MXS aircraft so much, particularly the comfort and ergonomics while doing these aerobatic maneuvers. One of the most humble, down-to-earth guys you would ever meet.
This is it. This is the cockpit of the MX2. You can see with the seat, I'm reclined quite a bit, almost 45 degrees. My feet are up really high, my knees are up high. My knees are about level with my heart when I'm flying, which is great for G tolerance. So you can put a lot of G's on the airplane, and it's a lot easier to fight the G's. It's incredibly comfortable. It's one of the few airplanes I've ever been in that I'll land from an aerobatic flight, and I'm happy to just sit here for a while, kind of contemplate my flight and think about what happened, and run through things. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm not like anxious to get out because I'm super uncomfortable like most aerobatic airplanes. And then the ergonomics of this airplane, everything's just where it's supposed to be. So obviously you fly with the right hand on the stick, which leaves you left hand free for a bunch of stuff. So everything I need to actually touch and mess with is on the left side. The mixture's on the left, prop controls on the left. Why some aerobatic planes put it on the right side, I have no idea. That makes zero sense. Mags are on the left, all my radios are on the left hand side, so it's very ergonomical of how it's set up and incredibly comfortable. Sticks in a great position for lots of leverage on it, lots of throw. So that's one of the other things I love about this airplane that I haven't found in any other aerobatic airplane, is the ergonomics and the setup is just fantastic. Number 3, why I fly an MX? They're strong. They're really strong. It's a plus minus 14G airplane. Most aerobatic airplanes at the unlimited level are like plus minus 10, which means if you're flying at 10 Gs, you're right at the limit every time you fly. What's nice about 14G airplane, plus or minus, is that even if I fly hard, if I tickle 11 or 12 Gs, I'm nowhere near the limit of the airplane. So I'm working myself hard. I'm not working the airplane hard, and I got a lot of margin in it. So the 4th reason why I fly an MX, it's pretty easy to fly. Just as a tail dragger airplane, it's very straightforward. It's easy to take off the land if you have basic tailwheel skills. Pretty much get in this thing and fly it.
And if you've ever flown the Pitts Special aircraft, you can really appreciate Rob's comments about the comfort and the ease of landing that this aircraft offers. So I get a lot of comments frequently. Are these air show displays really necessary? Well, these are the people that represent the greatest passion for aviation and willingness to share that passion with everybody else and to inspire a whole new generation of pilots. And I think the Colonel back here at Langley Air Force Base said it best.
Have you seen him perform live previously in other air shows in the past? And if so, can you just talk about how much of a legend he was and the impact he had on you as a fellow airman?
I think I'm one of millions of people who saw this individual fly. We do air shows to open the base, to bring people on, to inspire future airmen to look up and imagine what can be. And this individual did it better than anybody. So I think myself, everybody on this base, and particularly those folks who wear flight suits and challenge the skies, will deeply, deeply miss him.